Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey at 6 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, October 15th, 2024 in Cafeteria B of Westfield High School, 550 Dorian Road, Westfield, New Jersey. The Board will move immediately into private session to discuss matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, including harassment, intimidation, and bullying incidents. The public portion of the meeting will resume at 7 p.m. The purpose of the meeting is to transact the regular business of the Board and to transact any other business to come properly before the Board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Thursday, October 10th, 2024, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education, located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, Town Clerk of Westfield, Tap into Westfield, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting. Patty, may we have a roll call, please?
Rob Bonaccio.
Here.
Kent Diamond. Brendan Galligan.
Here.
Charles Gelinas.
Here.
Layla Morelli.
Here.
Sonal Patel.
Here.
Kristen Sonic-Schmeltz.
Here.
Julie Steinberg.
Here.
Mary Wickens.
Sonal, would you lead us in a flag salute, please? I request the Board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, including harassment, intimidation, and bullying incidents. And be it further resolved that any discussion held by the Board which need not remain confidential, and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practicable. May I have a second, please? Second to Sonal. I'll do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are in executive session. All right, the board is now back in session. We'll start with some announcements. CJ, do you have?
Yes. Congratulations to the following Westfield High School students who have been recognized for their exceptional academic promise as commended students in the 2025 National Merit Scholarship Program. And please forgive any mispronunciation. Kevin Deegan, Benjamin Duan, Tristan Ferrier, Michael Fisher, Anna Luxinger, Jake Pardes, Ethan Selvers, Anand Shah, Neil Shastri, Owen Way, Riley Whitlock, and Calvin Woodruff. Thanks.
Julie, do you have an announcement?
Yes, Westfield Public Schools will be closed on Thursday, November 7th and Friday, November 8th for Teacher Professional Days, consistent with the NJEA convention. Additionally, all students will have an early dismissal on Tuesday, November 5th and Wednesday, November 6th, as all staff members meet for professional development sessions.
Layla, any announcements for you? No. Kent?
Yes. The district remains committed to recognizing and raising awareness of the diversity in our school community. While National Hispanic Heritage Month ends today, there are quite a few cultural, historical, and religious observances in October. These include the Jewish high holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, Disability History and Awareness Month, Italian American Heritage Month, German American Heritage Day, and Indigenous Peoples Day. We look forward to continuing to honor our school community throughout the year as we celebrate the rich diversity that strengthens and unites us all.
Brendan? Nothing for that. Kristen?
Good evening. The district is piloting a new safety initiative for concerts and performances at our high school and intermediate schools. All attendees will now need a ticket to enter these events. This online ticketing system will allow the district to 1. Better manage crowd sizes, 2. Improve entry and exit processes, and 3. Create a safer environment for everyone. For your convenience, tickets can be reserved ahead of time for the entire academic year at wpsvpa.booktix.com. While this ticketing requirement won't be implemented at the elementary schools this year, all elementary string concerts held at the intermediate schools, along with the all-city concert in June, will require a ticket. Please visit the news section of the district and school websites for more information. Thank you.
Sonal?
The next regular public meeting of the Board of Education will be on Tuesday, November 19th in Cafeteria B at Westfield High School, beginning at 7 p.m. The meeting will be live streamed via the district YouTube channel, which viewers can access on the board tab on the district website. The complete agenda will be available on Friday, November 15th, also on the board tab.
Thanks, everyone. We're now going to move to 2 recognitions. We're going to start with, actually, these are 2 folks who should be familiar to the board. I think at this point we may want to get you guys seats up here because of all the great stuff that you're doing. So we'll start with the National Merit semifinalist. On behalf of the entire Board of Education, I'm pleased to welcome Westfield High School 12th grader Garrett Gow and his family tonight. Garrett has been named a 2025 National Merit semifinalist. He's among a nationwide pool of about 16,000 semifinalists who represent less than 1% of U.S. high school seniors. As a National Merit semifinalist, Garrett has the opportunity to continue in the competition for National Merit scholarships that will be offered next spring. Garrett, please come forward to accept a certificate of recognition from Dr. Gonzalez and join us on the stage for a photograph. Next recognition is for the Boys Track and Field Coach of the Year. Also here tonight is Coach Chris Stefelski, who is no stranger to our board meetings. As coach of the boys cross country and track and field teams, he and his runners have come before us many times to be recognized for their amazing seasons. Tonight, we honor Coach Stefelski for a second national recognition of his leadership and performance during the 23-24 school year. He was selected by the U.S. Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association as the 2024 Boys High School Track and Field Coach of the Year for New Jersey. State by state, winners were selected based on their team's performances throughout the 2024 outdoor track and field season. This prestigious recognition follows Coach Stefelski's selection last fall by the association as the Cross Country Coach of the Year. Coach Stefelski, please come up to accept your award and to make a few remarks before joining us on stage for a photograph.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to recognize this. It feels really weird to be here without the kids here. Coach without athletes this is strange. But I think before I forget, and I actually did write this in my phone because there are a number of people that contributed to our success over the course of all of the seasons. You know, whether our mission is always to develop kids, and wherever that leads is where it leads, and sometimes that leads to external successes like championships and things like that. But in our book, as long as kids are living up to our standards of conduct, commitment, effort, and teamwork, and they're moving forward in the sport, we're doing our job the right way. I absolutely want to recognize my coaching staff, because one person just cannot coach the sport of track and field. There's just too many things going on in too many different places, with too many different events and types of athletes. So I want to recognize Eric Anderson, Matt Anzel, Mariana Bannock, Jack Campbell, Ricardo Johnson, Sam Heyman, Don McDonald, and John Preston. Without these incredibly talented, gifted educators, they're educators, teaching kids all of the technical aspects of sport, but really the human aspects of sport too. They're just wonderful people to work with every day. They're terrific with the kids. Now a lot of those kids who were part of our program last year, they've graduated, and we stay in touch with kids when they move on. And it's always great to talk to them. Now they're a month, 2 months into their collegiate careers, and they're well, and they're prepared. From this place, they're prepared. They're prepared academically. They're prepared intellectually. They're prepared socially and emotionally for the challenges of fitting in a new place, sometimes with a new team, sometimes not, or just all the changes that go on in a kid's life from the time they graduate here in June to now. And so to hear great things from them, that they're still doing great things, whether they be track and field related or not, doesn't really matter, and without fail, whenever we talk to alums who come back, they say, "I am prepared because I'm a graduate of Westfield High School," and so that's something that all of us at all levels of what we do here, the administration, board, teachers, coaches, everybody, all doing the same work to accomplish that mission. So thank you, our parents that work with these kids. They do a wonderful job. They let us do our job, which is great. And so we've got these kids, and their development over their years, and the success what they do when they're out of here, I think is testament to what we do here. So thank you very much.
My guess is we'll be seeing Coach again December, January, we're figuring, with athletes. Next, we'll move to the report by district administration. I'll turn over to Dr. Gonzalez.
So this evening, we'll have two reports. One will include brief comments by myself, and then following will be our annual assessment report, which will be provided by Dr. Bolton and members of our administrative team, Liz D'Alessandro, Liz Riley, and Tom Patterson. To get started, I do want to offer some remarks with a theme that is consistent with the month of October being when, as a state, all school districts are recognizing School Violence Awareness Week as well as the Week of Respect. And as part of our ongoing commitment to fostering a safe and supportive learning environment, each school within our district has completed the annual Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights self-assessment, which is required by the New Jersey Department of Education. This assessment evaluates 8 core elements, including HIB programs, staff training and procedures, and reporting procedures. Our schools have diligently worked on establishing anti-bullying initiatives and ensure that effective staff training all take place with the goal of preventing and addressing harassment, intimidation, and bullying. The 2023-2024 self-assessment highlights both the success of our schools as well as areas for continued improvement, reflecting our dedication to maintaining a positive school climate. Once the Board of Education approves the submission this evening, we'll send our self-assessment ratings to the New Jersey Department of Education for their review. The state may adjust these ratings based on data and issue a final grade in the spring, which will be posted on both the state and district websites. These grades will serve as a guide in further strengthening our HIB programs. A full report of our district scores can be found in the attachment for item B under the governance section of tonight's agenda. In alignment with our anti-bullying efforts, our schools actively participated in the Week of Respect held from October 7th through the 11th. This initiative engaged students, staff, and the community in a series of activities that promoted respect, safety, and healthy habits. Schools like Lincoln hosted assemblies such as Touch a Truck and incorporated character-strong lessons, while McKinley and Jefferson facilitated daily respect-themed lessons and engaging activities like the first grade reading of Giraffes Can't Dance. Washington School collaborated with the librarian for a respect-themed reading, and Franklin adopted the theme I Belong, You Belong, and We Belong. To encourage inclusivity and empathy, Roosevelt, Edison, and the high school contributed in their own creative approaches, including sidewalk chalk activities and anti-bullying table talks. Finally, in case you missed our recent district newsletter, I'd like to share the message that encapsulates our work during the Week of Respect and the upcoming School Violence Awareness Week. It reiterates our firm stance against hate, discrimination, and violence as we continue to promote a culture of respect and safety in all of our schools. So this is the message that was included in our most recent newsletter. As we enter the month of October, our schools will observe the Week of Respect and School Violence Awareness Week, which are critical opportunities to focus on building positive and inclusive school environments consistent with the mission of our district. These observances remind us of the importance of promoting kindness, inclusion, and respect for all members of our school community. Our district is unwavering in its commitment to fostering a climate where every student, staff member, and family feels safe, valued, and respected. We stand firmly against all forms of hatred and bigotry, including anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, racism, anti-LGBTQIA+ bias, and any other forms of discrimination. Acts of intolerance and hate, whether subtle or overt, tear at the very fabric of our school community, and we will not tolerate them. Anyone found committing such acts will be subject to consequences under our Student Code of Conduct and may be referred to law enforcement when appropriate. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that prejudice and hate have no place in our schools. We are dedicated to creating a culture where empathy, respect, and inclusion are not just ideals, but daily practices that define who we are as a school community. As we focus on respect, anti-bullying, and anti-violence during these important weeks, I want to highlight some of the resources and support systems that we have in place. Anti-bullying programs and policies. We adhere to the New Jersey Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, which mandates that we actively prevent and address harassment, intimidation, bullying in our schools. Our anti-bullying specialists and counselors are available to assist students in navigating conflicts and promoting positive relationships. Families can find more information about our district's anti-bullying policies, including how to report an incident, on our district website. There, you will also find contact information for our district's anti-bullying coordinator and the school anti-bullying specialists, as well as instructions on the reporting process. Counseling and support services. Our schools offer comprehensive counseling and support services to support students' emotional and mental well-being. Our counselors, who also serve as the anti-bullying specialists, play a critical role in guiding students through conflicts and addressing incidents of bullying and providing a safe space for students to express their concerns. They work closely with students to build resilience, manage stress, and promote positive relationship. If you believe your child could benefit from these services, or if you need support regarding a bullying incident, we encourage you to reach out to our counseling team, who are dedicated to ensuring a safe and supportive environment for every student. In the world of inclusive educational programs, throughout the school year, we continue to offer programs that emphasize the importance of respect, tolerance, and acceptance of all individuals, regardless of their differences. And these programs are designed to promote understanding and empathy among our students. And then last but certainly not least are the efforts that we include in our curriculum and instruction work with our teachers. Our district is deeply committed to providing teachers and counselors with the resources and strategies needed to address such topics as respect and inclusion and diversity in an open and unbiased manner. Through ongoing professional development and access to comprehensive instructional materials, we ensure that educators are equipped to foster critical discussions and promote empathy and understanding among students around complex topics when they arise. These efforts are designed to create classrooms where all perspectives are valued and students learn the importance of respect for differences. By empowering educators with these tools, we strive to cultivate an environment where every student can feel seen, heard, and respected. As we move forward in the weeks and months and year ahead, I encourage all members of our school community, students, parents, teachers, and staff, to join us in our efforts to build an environment where respect is a cornerstone of our interactions. By working together, we can ensure that our schools remain a place of learning, growth, and safety for everyone. Let us continue to support one another in creating a district where everyone feels they belong. That concludes my report this evening. At this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Bolton up to deliver the second presentation this evening.
Evening, everyone. Oh, I forgot my clicker. Thank you so much for allowing us to satisfy this state-mandated requirement of reporting our NJSLA and DLM scores to you. And when I say us, I do mean us. I'm so happy that I have the experts with me today, who you'll see how much work they do with these scores. We have Ms. Liz Riley, who is our K-12 Subject Supervisor for Language Arts. We have Ms. Liz D'Alessandro, who is our K-12 Subject Supervisor for Computer Science and Mathematics. And we have Mr. Tom Patterson, who is our Science and Technology Education / acting Westfield High School Principal. It's many hats he's wearing right now. He's going to be interpreting the science scores for us. So just to get started a little bit, I'll be providing a general high-level quantitative overview, and then the supervisors will come and provide more of a in-depth qualitative analysis of the scores and what they mean for us. So this, I'll start with the NJSLA, New Jersey Student Learning Assessments. Students are assessed each year in language arts in grades 3 through 9, in mathematics in grades 3 through 8, and then Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. They're also assessed in science in grades 5, 8, and 11. So if you remember last 2 months ago, I reported on the NJGPA scores. Those are students in grade 11. So students in grade 11 often get the triple whammy of SATs, NJGPA, and Science NJSLA. And then also students take the dynamic learning maps assessment. That is reserved for students with IEPs who have some of the most significant intellectual disabilities in grades 3 through 8 and grade 11. When these scores are reported to parents, parents receive an individual student report. That is a report that is typically mailed home. This past year, we've joined the 21st century as a school district, and we have stopped putting stamps on envelopes, and we have now uploaded these individual student reports into Genesis. So parents are able to log into their Genesis profile, click on an assessments tab, and then see a PDF version of the individual student report. These student reports are chock full of information for parents. They have student performance levels, which I'll explain in a second. There are student scale scores ranging from 650 to 850. There are state, district, and school average performance measures. And there are subsections of the main subject areas, so subcategories of performance that are reported. There's also a passcode for parents to access the online database where their historical data of their students' individual score reports are housed. So NJSLA performance levels, there are 5 performance levels in English language arts and math, and wouldn't you know it, there's not 5 performance levels in science. So Mr. Patterson will go into depth on why that is. So the performance levels range from level 1, not meeting grade level expectations, to all the way to level 4 and 5, meeting and exceeding grade level expectations. Once we look at our aggregate scores, which we'll do in a second, we do break down our scores into subgroups and subgroups that are reported. Some of the subgroups that exist in our school district and the percentage of students in those subgroups are reported here. We have subgroups with economically disadvantaged, students with disabilities, multilingual learners, our white students, Hispanic students, Black, African American, and Asian. You'll notice that some of these subgroups do have an asterisk next to them, and that's essentially, we must suppress data that represents an N under 10. So in a grade level, if there are students who, in a particular subgroup, who don't meet that threshold of having 10 or more students, then we do not report on that data. So some of these subgroups, you may look at some of the charts and tables in this presentation and notice that there are subgroups that are not represented, and that is because their subgroup is so small, and for confidentiality and statistical anomalies that result of such a small N, we suppress that data. So this first table is our English language arts aggregate performance, and as you'll see, this is by grade level. Westfield is represented in blue, the state averages are represented in black. Our average scale scores, and then you'll see this is by grade level across the rows. There's representation of average scale scores and then each level of performance, as we discussed earlier. And then the final column is the sum of the level 4 and 5, those students who met or exceeded expectations. As you'll see, in aggregate, Westfield continues to do extremely well on the NJSLA performance, especially compared to state averages, both in scale score and in combined levels of 4s and 5s. This is language arts. And then this is a table, a couple of things about this chart actually. There was a question at last year's meeting when we presented this data about how do we do in response to, how are we performing after COVID? And it was a good question. So thanks to Aubrey is a partnership that the district has engaged in with a data warehousing company where we're able to centralize all of our data, student data, into one space. So it's enabling us to have student data from NJSLA scores to other assessments that we conduct in the district right at our fingertips, and allows us to combine data points and triangulate data points. So it's been exceedingly helpful in both not only providing these data visualizations, but also in giving us some more efficient and effective tools to analyze data. So Aubrey provided us with this chart, And you'll see in this chart, just as in all the other charts, the blue is exceeded expectations, the green is met expectations, yellow is approached expectations, orange partially met, and red did not meet expectations or did not yet meet expectations. So this is, you'll see 2018, 2019 on the top, and then COVID, and then we resume assessments in 21, 22. So you'll see incrementally as we're rebounding from COVID, our scores are continuing to gain and are very close, if not almost identical to where we were pre-COVID. And this is, again, language arts. English language arts subscores, I'll go quickly through these subgroup scores. These are, again, this presentation will be posted on the website for anyone who wants to go into depth into any of these subgroup scores. This is Hispanic, Asian subgroup in language arts, Black and African American. Oh, hold up. White subgroup. Economically disadvantaged, you'll notice this subgroup is only 2 grade levels reported because of the small n size in every other grade. Special education scores, and students with 504s. So again, ELA comparisons from year to year are important. So this is a table that just describes where each grade level is doing in comparison to the grade level prior to it. So it gives us a comparison of between group comparison. It also gives us a sense as we analyze these scores of whether it's a particular grade level or if there's something, potentially if we see patterns of assessment scores at a particular grade level that we see are consistently challenging, it might be the content of the test at that grade level that we could analyze. So this chart will show, again, combined levels 4s and 5s who've met or exceeded expectations, and then percent change from the 2023 group at that grade level to the 2024 group of students at that grade level. So in addition to presenting these scores publicly and organizing them into a board presentation and a nice slide deck to put onto a website, we actually utilize these scores in real ways and meaningful ways to enhance our teaching practice. Our administrators, our supervisors, our principals, our teachers meet regularly to analyze these scores in the beginning of the year. They meet in their faculty meetings, in grade level meetings, and PLCs and department meetings where they look at different reports that are provided by Pearson, who is the company that provides us with the NJSLA. Some of the reports that are more actionable are things like this evidence statement analysis, which you've seen in previous presentations. This provides us with, again, this is a criterion-based assessment, so it is aligned to the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. So this is an example of where we're able to look at identified standards. It's hard to see on this table, but those little numbers on the bottom are the standards, and then the district's performance is represented through a green dot, and the state performance is represented through a blue square, and we're able to see our relative performance on that standard against the state average. So in areas where we see, and this is just a sample of one, but where in areas where we do see that the state average and our performance are getting closer, that's where we do a deep dive into that particular standard and then compare it to other assessments that we're taking, whether they're curriculum-based assessments that teachers are delivering or screening assessments like iReady, which we're implementing this year for the first time, that's giving us real-time data to compare to these standards. So again, this is just another example of actionable steps that we're able to take with this data with our teachers to improve instructional next steps. Our supervisors are also busy. As soon as these scores come out, I mean, honestly, before I even log into Pearson, Liz, and Tom have already analyzed all of the scores. I don't know how they do it, but it's immediate. And they produce things like this, tables that demonstrate to us what the areas of strengths are in a particular grade level, areas of focus, and recommended action steps for teachers to take. And this is the type of thing that they bring into those grade level meetings or those department meetings for their teachers. So the teachers aren't spending time in addition to doing their teaching and their planning to analyze scores. The analysis is done with them, but also for them by the subject supervisors. And this is an excellent place for me to hand the presentation over to our language arts supervisor, Liz Riley, who's going to give you a little bit more of a qualitative view at the English language arts scores that we just reviewed.
Hi, how are you? So every year I come up here and I start and I say, we're going to dive in and we're going to look. And every year I say, we have to be really proud of ourselves. And once again, I think that's where we need to start. When I dive into this data, I'm looking at where are we the least above the state? Like, it's an interesting place to be. So I just want to start with elementary a little bit. You can all read the screen, so I'm not going to say exactly what's on the screen, but what I want to tell you is a little bit about what's behind the numbers that we go. First of all, I am not the numbers person. Liz is the numbers person. But as I dive and as I look at different things, it's really, really interesting because what Matt showed you earlier was year to year how we perform. But one of the things that I do is I look at our cohorts. And what that means is I look at the current fifth graders and I see how'd they do in fourth grade? How'd they do in third grade? How are they progressing, that cohort? Because we can compare year to year, but you know, there's certain grade levels that are super big. There's certain grade levels that are super small. So we're comparing, not that we're comparing apples and oranges, but we're comparing different things, right? The current fourth grade right now, who took third grade last year, their scores improved by 7.5%. The current fifth grade, from third to fourth grade, improved 8.8%, and from fourth to fifth grade, improved 4.3%. So that's over 12% that they, or 13% if I can add correctly, that they have improved from third to fifth grade. That's what we're looking for. Are our students growing? And they are, and they're doing really, really well. Where are they growing? Their writing is phenomenal at the elementary level. They do a lot of it. They have a 90 minutes to 120 minutes, remember that, in elementary school for ELA. It's wonderful, it's amazing. Everything is literature rich, it's great. Where they're working is analyzing text structures and comparing and contrasting. Dr. Bolton put up the evidence statements. What he didn't mention was that they go by level of complexity and difficulty. So on the left side are the most difficult, the right side become less difficult. Those items are the most difficult ones. So those are the ones that they are working on. Those are the ground level building blocks of what they will be doing later on. So when we look at text structures, the questions that they're asking is, why would an author choose to write this section as a compare and contrast as opposed to a problem and solution? There's a lot going on in that question for third graders, fourth graders, and fifth graders. So they're doing great, but that's the area that we're continuing to work on. In fact, 2 years ago, that was a SGO for a third grade cohort at one of the elementary schools. iReady is our fourth and fifth grade universal screening tool that we implemented this year, as well as DIBELS in grades K through 3. So all of those supports and learning how that data is going to inform our instruction, how that data is going to identify students who need additional support are all built in. So I think that the elementary numbers are really, really exciting. I think the staff works really, really hard on those. And then we've got good things, good data to continue working on, especially curriculum-wise. Moving on to, I gotta go down. Moving on to the intermediate school. The intermediate school, we have this conversation every year where our sixth grade students, we see a dip in the numbers, and automatically that looked like when that chart went up, if you notice sixth grade was -5, it's there. We recognize that. There's a lot of things that go into play with regards to the change in schedule and routine from a fifth grade student to a sixth grade student. Doesn't mean that we don't have work to do. This year was really, really interesting. When I broke down the data, we are consistently above the state average in reading, as we always are. The difference was in our writing this year. So we know that, and that's what sixth grade teachers and I are going to look at. More on-demand chances for students to just write, not longer pieces that are revised, because it's a different type of writing. It is a standard. One of the standards that has been in our NJSLS for years is various types of writing. So we just have to be more intentional about what we're doing, and we know that. But when I look at the cohorts, once they enter intermediate school and then go through 6th, 7th, and 8th, we continue to see that improvement. Every year, they continue to do better. So that, once again, is really promising in the sense of once they acclimate to intermediate school and the difference, because intermediate school moves to 40-ish minutes. Remember that number I said for elementary, 90 to 120. It's a shift. It's a shift in the amount of time that we spend in instruction. So we have that. The other element that I couldn't have planned better if I tried, and I could have tried, but the brand new interventionists that we all approved, that the budget voted for, that the public voted for, their goal during the month of September was to create a diagnostic writing assessment to be able to identify students with specific needs. They didn't know those numbers yet. So we have people in place that we need to identify students who need support. So that's exciting that we have that, because 2 years ago we didn't. So that's really, really wonderful. iReady will give us great information, but iReady is reading only. So knowing that there's that discrepancy in those numbers, it's great to know that they're working on that. High school. I mean, how can we not be happy with 82%? I mean, like, it's amazing. It really is outstanding to look at that many students and see that number and not be bolstered by the fact that these kids who lived through COVID and everything like that, they're showing that they can demonstrate the skills and that they have them. But our work isn't done. Every 9th grade student took iReady this year. Teachers are centering conversations around data. I just had a conversation, a teacher and I dove into 3 specific kids. What do you think? What did we do? We pulled up past NJSLA scores. We took a look. Is there something that we're seeing a pattern of? Not. All these conversations are starting, and without that data, those conversations don't happen. So it's really, really wonderful. And then that's what we're working on. We're continuing to identify the areas for high school. Thank you, whoever moved that for me, thank you. But once again, we're going to continue giving them the writing chances. We're going to continue to familiarize themselves with the text format and the question types. They know that, but there's technology-enhanced questions, they call them, where they have to click and drag. They need the 2 parts and everything like that. They know it by then, but if there's any students who are either new to the district or from another state or something like that, we just have to remember that. iReady will help with that because iReady mimics a lot of those questions. They did really, really well with the beginning of the year iReady. So I'm excited. I'm excited to have the work that we have to do because I think it's good, tangible, actionable items. And I think that the teachers deserve a lot of credit for where we are and where we're going, because it's exciting. So thank you all very, very much.
Okay, so let's head into everyone's favorite, math. I'll go quickly because I know you really just want to hear from the supervisors. So mathematics comparisons, again, same chart as for language arts. Westfield's in blue, average scale score, percentage of students by level of performance, and then the combined meeting and exceeding expectations. Again, what you'll see by grade level, grade by grade, is Westfield's performance, both in scale score and in performance level, well above the state average, particularly in the levels in 4s and 5s. And then this is where the breakout is for algebra, algebra 2, and geometry. And it is important to note, just to go back a little bit, that 8th grade is where there's a little bit of a separation. There's a separation between 8th graders that take Math 8 and then 8th graders who are taking Algebra 1. So that has to be factored into the scores that are being reported. Again, same trend, strong performance in mathematics. Again, similar chart from the English language arts performance. This is 2018, then COVID, then 2022, or 21, 22, 22, 23, and 23, 24. And this is another really great illustration of the work that's been done by teachers and administrators in this district to bring students back from a really significant event that did have a damaging effect on their academic performance. And now you can see that we are almost identical to where we were pre-COVID. And then subgroup performance, this is where I would recommend to folks to go onto the website and look at this chart, because it is very hard to see, especially when it's broken down by year. This is Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry by year. And again, you can just see similar performance trends. These are subgroup performances, and this is where you're going to see a lot of bars, because it does break down into not only grades 3 through 8, but also Algebra 2, and Geometry. So it does, this is one of those things that you want to view on a computer instead of on a screen. Asian performance in math, Algebra 1, and Geometry. And again, same deal with the suppression of numbers. If there's a subgroup that has an N under 10 in a particular grade or a particular course, they won't be represented in this chart. Black and African American, white for grades 3 through 9, Algebra 1, and Geometry. Special education performance, and students with 504. Same chart, between groups comparison from year to year, difference between 23 group and 24 group for average scale score, and levels of 4 and 5 met or exceeded expectations. So you see, again, similar trend, variability from grade to grade, where certain grades are demonstrating growth compared to the previous year, where others may not. And as Liz just commented in language arts, this is where we dive in and see, is it a particular cohort, or is it a grade level situation with a transition, or what are the variables that are contributing to the performance? And I will turn it over now to Liz D'Alessandro.
How many Liz's can we throw in a room who love math? That's our mission for the night. So good evening, everyone. I will try to give you a little glossy overview of math, because I know if I went into the quadratic equation, some of you would cringe and others would be thrilled at this moment. So here we go. In terms of how we analyze it, it's very similar to what Ms. Riley does in the ELA department. We're looking at the same type of thing, where we're looking at the tiniest of spaces of where we are compared to the state, and then the ones where we're way above. So that's our big comparison. So in terms of elementary, our assessments revealed strengths in comparing reasoning with fraction equivalents and solving multi-step number stories with all 4 operations. That last one is consistent with what we did last year. So we're maintaining where we're going. It's still standing out because of where it was in the level of complexity within the questions. We are also having a great deal of success in justifying results through reasoning, particularly when number lines are involved in the question. So that goes to speak to a lot of what you will see students at the elementary doing in their modeling components of class. Last year, our number stories involved with fractions and mixed numbers required a lot of additional support. That particular standard did not reveal itself as neither a strength nor a weakness. So we're right in the middle in that. So we have improved. In terms of where our weaknesses are now, it is in terms of a contextual content or prompting is missing from the question. So a much more abstract question is where our students were struggling, whereas if it was a practical application, they hopped right on it. Although we've seen the progress with our reasoning and modeling, we continue to provide students with opportunities for peer collaboration. In fact, in January, we added a supplemental program, the Exemplars program, to our 4th and 5th grades as an opportunity to expand modeling, reasoning, and peer collaboration within the classroom. And that becomes a major focus for K through 12 programming. We really want to leverage these opportunities for students to have collaborative experiences, because by talking about math, they get more and more comfortable with it. In addition, the iReady screening tool being implemented is going to allow teachers to identify and address prerequisite skills, ensuring that the students are prepared at that moment for grade level content. And in the final moment, we have the Achieve program that's also being continuously used to help support students that may be weak in math. Moving on to the intermediate, this particular slide is only speaking to the students who took Math 6, Math 7, and Math 8. We'll talk about algebra when we talk about the high school. Notably, our 7th grade students begin our leveling process. That is where we separate between Math 7 and pre-algebra. So even though they're taking 2 different courses, they actually still take the same Math 7 test. As soon as we go to 8th grade, our students could take an algebra. If they are taking algebra, they have to take the high school algebra test. So that's what Matt was speaking to, where there's going to be a little difference in how the reporting comes through. So to give you some perspective on it, last year, 44% of our 8th graders took the grade 8 assessment, while 56% of our students took the Algebra 1 or the geometry assessment. Our results indicated that there were strengths in rational numbers with equations and inequalities. This actually built on our strengths from the prior year, which were focused more on the computations. We also had strengths in proportional reasoning with linear models and in our data analysis, which had not popped up last year. Every year, the test may or may not have the same standards focused. So in this particular case, in 7th grade, we had 9 new standards being assessed on our version of the test. So when folks ask, is it the same standards year after year? No, we're covering them all, and we see where we land. In terms of areas that we need to improve, our students demonstrated some issues when identifying and correcting flawed reasoning, as well as understanding transformations involving angles. They were great if it was a solid figure. These are both different from last year. Last year, our areas of weakness were in equivalent fractions and scientific notation, so neither of those appeared in our weaknesses, so vast improvement. To support students at the intermediate school, we have the math interventionists that were brought back last year. These teachers are allowing our students to receive pull-out support as well as push-in models within our classes. The iReady platform is being brought in for all middle school grades, and that will also help to identify prerequisite skills for teachers to address. In addition, the math teachers have been focusing on Tier 1 instructional techniques to help support students through differentiation, collaboration, and vocabulary support. Moving on to the high school, this particular data set included students in grades 7 through 9. For the Algebra 1 assessment, 38% of the test takers were actually 9th graders, while 62% were in 7th or 8th grade. For the geometry assessment, 94% were 9th graders and 6% were 8th graders. Among the 9th graders, 43% took Algebra 1, 53% took geometry, and 4% took Algebra 2. So that's why when we report, this is a little gray area, because you're also talking, as Liz spoke about earlier, at the elementary, we have 60-minute blocks for math. At the middle school, you have a 40-minute period, and at the high school, you have a 43-minute period. So there's a lot of variability going on as we go through this. Our results showed strengths in reasoning with linear, exponential, and quadratic functions. That is a repeat of the prior year, so we can maintain that. Applying geometric reasoning within the coordinate plane, and analyzing systems of inequalities. Those relatively are being maintained as we go year to year. However, the areas that need improvement have changed slightly. This particular year, it was with analyzing the graphical effects when a parent function is presented, as well as identifying the three-dimensional object that is generated by spinning a two-dimensional object. So a lot of the visualization components are challenged there. Last year, our particular weakness was in completing the square. So we've gone to a totally different aspect of mathematics. A continued strength of our high school math program is the emphasis on student collaboration, as we had mentioned earlier. Whether working together on practice problems or using reasoning and modeling to solve real-world issues, students frequently collaborate, refine, justify, and communicate their thinking. Additionally, incorporating release test items into our instruction is helping students get familiar with the assessments they're going to be taking, both for the state as well for college. Outside of the classroom, students have access to the workshop classes, which is a second class a student can elect to take and can be recommended. It is small group and targeted instruction with a math teacher. In addition, we have the Math Resource Center that is open during all lunch periods for students to drop in to get assistance in their stuff or make up assessments or clear up homework questions, anything like that. And including the ninth graders, it's actually only Algebra 1 students at the high school that are taking the iReady. So that's a little different than ELA, where it's every ninth grader, just because of how the test is structured. So the overall takeaways would be that our focus on reasoning and modeling, particularly in grades 3 through 8, has yielded consistent improvements in our test results as we recover from the pandemic's impact. An example, our 5th grade students. So last year I told you about them as 4th graders, and I told you they were about 26 percentage points above the state in modeling and reasoning. Those same group of kids now as 5th graders scored 30 percentage points higher in reasoning and 46 percentage points above in modeling. So those two clusters represent the more challenging questions that a student will receive on the assessment. Last year, our Math 8 students, you may have noticed, they are our weakest group when you look at it from a numbers point, but remember, we're structuring the classes differently at that point. Most of those students got targeted instruction based on what we were seeing. That particular group of students increased by 8%. So we are seeing growth with those particular kids. And we aim to build on that success by continuing to use what iReady is demonstrating to us. Overall, the passing rates for grades 3 through 8 are 29 percentage points higher than the state average, and grades 3 through 5 and Algebra 1 are at or above pre-pandemic levels. So we're narrowing the field of where those gaps remain. Thank you.
A lot of numbers. We're going to head into science. So science is really interesting in that it's only assessed in grades 5, 8, and 11. The proficiency levels are different. They're levels 1, 2, 3, and 4 instead of on a 5-level scale. And you'll also notice that our performance numbers look quite a bit different in science as well. So and Tom will speak to this, but when you look at it is directly related to the complexity of the assessment. The types of questions that are being asked are incredibly challenging, and not just to Westfield students, to all students, because if you look at the relative comparison between level 3 and 4, meeting proficient or advanced proficient on this assessment in each of our grades compared to the state average, the difference between the state average and our performance is even higher than it is in ELA and math. So again, relative comparisons are important when you're looking at the complexity of an assessment and making judgments about performance based on those performance indicators. So it's important to consider when looking at these numbers, because it's very easy to look at these charts and say, well, this is the year-to-year comparison again for science, and I mean, I don't think you could find something more consistent. So consistent performance since prior to the pandemic and then returning from the pandemic. But when you look at subgroup performances, it's very easy to say, why do we have so many kids that are not meeting expectations or partially meeting expectations? And again, it is a direct result of the complexity of the test that not only impacts our students, but all students across the state. This is Hispanic, Asian subgroup, Black and African American, white subgroup, special education, 504. And I will now turn it over to Tom Patterson, who can explain a little bit about how those questions are so complex.
How are we holding up, everybody? How you doing, James? You okay? Yeah. Okay, ready for some quadratic complexities and Lexile groupings and... Okay. So, thank you. State science assessment presents some unique challenges in evaluating student performance. As Matt mentioned, the varied and non-standard question formats are pretty confusing, especially when you have multiple part and multi-select questions, and a bigger portion of that is that you get one little part wrong, you lose all credit, which is an interesting side note. So you got small mistakes translating into big problems, and across the state we address this as this is an issue. Additionally, there's a significant lack of transparency in the data, so it makes it difficult to track the data from year to year. It's probably contributing to the consistency in our scoring. But seeing what we see, we know where to address students and support them, and it's really in the complex question types and making sure that they're good with those, but basically increasing the proficiency in the NGSS three-dimensional classroom practices, which, James, you're fluent in that, right? Excellent, excellent. So, the next. Oh, it's down. I guess I messed it up. There we go. So when looking at the grade band results, they're consistent with our instructional practices. At the elementary level, the students excel in the relationships and patterns to focus on getting students good at observational skills, while we also support their emerging inquiry and argumentation skills. At the intermediate school, where we want to see the strengths are in the modeling and argumentation. So now they can create models and they can really support their evidence, and we shift the focus towards the end to really focusing on the data as they get into 8th grade, preparing them for high school and comprehending that data. And at the high school level, the students perform well in the data analysis and communication, largely attributed to the work that they're doing in mathematics. And so the work there in the later grades pivots to the complexity of the inquiring and modeling abilities. So there you go. I'm going to take this note to say, more importantly, something that I think actually matters and represents the science education here in Westfield. On a side note, today I attended the New Jersey Science Convention, where we had 5 of our intermediate school teachers present 4 workshops on the instructional practices that they've developed and use along with our Open SciEd curriculum foundation material, which happens to be adopted by the state as their model curriculum. These presentations were nothing short of exceptional, and that's not my words, even though I agree. The feedback we received from everyone, including the state science coordinator, Mike Hines, runs all of science across the state, and supervisors from other districts who are quite literally jealous of what we are doing here in Westfield and who we have doing it, wasn't just positive. It was a clear recognition of how Westfield works hard on developing high-quality science education. Our teachers are doing extraordinary work that results in our district continuing to be viewed as a leader in science education. I am very proud to work with these people. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, so we're going to wrap up. The last part is dynamic learning maps. The dynamic learning maps is an assessment that is only administered to a very small group of students in our district, and the N is so small that we don't report out on the details of the scores, but it is reserved for students in grades 3 through 8 and 11 that have some of the most significant intellectual disabilities. It is an assessment that is computer-based, and in many situations, students are guided over the course of multiple days, but one-on-one individually with a teacher as they take part in these test slits where they demonstrate performance on what's called the alternative academic achievement standards, they are content-aligned standards. They're aligned with New Jersey student learning standards, but are significantly different in their depth, their breadth, and their complexity. So next steps, and Tom, Liz, and Liz have really outlined all of these next steps, so I don't really have to say much more than we are really excited about not only our current performance, but our opportunities for growth. And we're also extremely excited about that opportunity for growth because now that we have the people and the resources in place and the tools in place, such as our data analytics solution, Abre, we have iReady, which is our screening tool that is going to give us immediate, not months later, but immediate assessment data that's aligned to New Jersey student learning standards that we can then triangulate against curriculum embedded assessments and standardized assessments. Just provide us with a very clear roadmap of taking actionable steps and building instructional strategies to address areas of need and points of emphasis that we've identified today, particularly as it pertains to certain subgroups of students. And that is our presentation on the New Jersey Student Learning Assessments and DLM. Questions? Yes.
Thank you all for presenting. Before, I have two questions, but I do want to say this is the first time sitting in this seat where I can say that I've always felt that Westfield offers a caliber of education that is unparalleled to what I've seen professionally and personally in other districts. But now that I have a child in college, it's a very different perspective because she's not a math kid. Sorry, none of my kids are. And she's petrified about having to take math in college. And she's texting me and she's like, no, I mean, it's okay. And I mean, I'm pretty prepared for statistics. Okay. And her roommate, who's, I mean, brilliant, is not used to the amount of reading. And she's like, I don't know, it's like nothing compared to Westfield. And I said, okay. So just to tell you from a parent perspective, I think they realize it once they leave, what quality of education they get. So thank you. My two questions are, number one is, do the parents get iReady scores sent home to them?
So that's a great question. It's a question that we've been interacting with for the past 2 months since we have adopted iReady. So the answer is yes, parents will get iReady scores, just not right now.
Okay.
And the reason being that, so our students, we are rolling out iReady the beginning of September, first day of school. We train teachers in, hi everyone, welcome back, this is iReady. Mm-hmm. And they received part one of the, how do I administer this assessment, what is it? And then just yesterday, they received part two. So all teachers that are involved in iReady from grades 4 through 9 received a second training from iReady consultants in, okay, we've administered the assessment, what do I do with it? What's the data tell me? How do I access the reports? How do I interpret these scores? So prior to sending reports home to parents, we have to have teachers that can answer the questions that parents will absolutely likely ask. So the plan is more than likely to send home reports, one, to reference reports during elementary school parent-teacher conferences, but then also to send home reports after the second administration. So there's 3 screening times, and there will be a second one in the winter, and we'll send home reports then.
Okay. And then my second question was, just in terms of the addressing concerns in the math area, so all of the things that you pointed out and spoke about make sense, but I'm just wondering what's different than what we've been doing before, especially for, we have skilled interventionists who are working with at risk, but for children who are kind of consistently below expectations, not meeting expectations, what are we doing differently they're not taking 2 classes, they're not taking that extra workshop. Like, is there something that we're adding in that area?
So, I mean, Liz probably wants to stand up behind me right now, but I'm going to say we're focusing on building the capacity of our teachers first. That's our fundamental focus, is enhancing, and you've heard us say this last year, which is improving Tier 1 instruction, right? So first identifying through having the tools which we did not have, so having the screening data at the ready to identify the students who need the support, and then having those tools be able to pinpoint precisely what standards they're struggling in, so that we could target it more appropriately and more immediately. So, and then the next part of that is, and building the capacity of the teachers, because the next question is, thanks so much, I have this data, what do I do?
Right,
So what do I do with a small group when they've demonstrated a need? So that's all part of professional development. And that's what we're working on. So that's the focus of professional development. And after just today, I summarized all of the reflections from our professional development session, full day PD from yesterday. And that's what teachers are thirsty for, saying, this is great, I love the data, I'm so happy to have it now, let's talk teaching strategies. So that's all of our next step, is building the teaching strategies. Like, when I'm in a small group with the students who I identified who need a small group, what should I be doing? So, and that's, Liz Del Sandro and I just had a conversation about that today, planning next steps.
First of all, I agree with the original statement to look at the positive, and I think everybody should be very proud of these numbers. I also would like to echo, which I seem to not have a choice about, Layla's comments, and I found that out too when my kid went to college, and my kid is a math kid and a math major, and they were more than ready to take that on, and I'm very grateful to the math department. That being said, on page 33, I just have a general question. I see for Algebra 2, there was decline 4.2, and for Geometry, 15.6. Really, I should have gone in the other order because it's first Geometry and then Algebra 2. And I also understand that the testing cycle is different for science, but one thing that does occur to me is that while you can't necessarily correlate these data points, I'm just wondering if it's sort of a natural, looking at the science numbers as well, I'm just wondering if there's anything that you could get out of this that shows whether or not those dips in those particular mathematical areas are affecting the kids as they move on to the next level of math required, say, in chemistry or in physics or in other core mathematical classes that do have a strong mathematical component to them. And so I was just wondering whether or not that's something that's been discussed, and whether or not you could share that with us.
Sure. Did you want to? So we did discuss this number. And I will say, before Liz says anything, it is aberrant. It's not, there isn't a consistent pattern of declines to that degree in Algebra 2. So.
One thing I just want to point out before Liz says something, you can't really draw correlations between the math scores and the science scores because of the nature of the science assessment. They're not, these questions are not complex in terms of mathematical abilities, and you can see that if you use the practice test, and you might say other things about the nature of the questions. But so that is a very difficult correlation to draw, but one thing I can give you is anecdotal data from the chemistry and physics teachers in the high school department, and they have not seen any significant changes for the worse in a student's mathematical abilities. So I like changes in the test scores. If it bore out, they trust me. They would tell me quickly, and I haven't heard that.
To give you a little bit perspective on the math scores, when you look at Algebra 2, it is a group of students that is very small compared to our population as a whole, so that number gets swayed very quickly. When you're talking about possibly less than 20 students in the entire school taking that test, one doing poorly makes that number vacillate hugely. So I would not focus on the Algebra 2 scores just because of how our dynamic lays out. Geometry, though, that's a core component of our student population. The score that we actually have now is almost at pre-pandemic level. So it vacillates every year depending on who is taking it. We are more concerned on what are the standards versus the actual number, because some standards in geometry, if a kid doesn't necessarily master that, we can remediate, but it's not a massive priority because of the subsequent courses that they'll be taking. Geometry and algebra collide when they get to pre-calc. So we have another year to kind of circulate back to some of those skills and embed them within our curriculum. So we're not necessarily seeing that those results are causing us a problem as we go. But every year, you're going to see a little bit of fluctuation with those 3 courses just because of population.
Any other questions?
I've got one for you.
Okay. Your question last year was are we showing improvement on the things that we need to show improvement on? And that was the answer was the different standards. So when we dive into the questions, we're seeing a lot of variability in standards, especially the more complex standards.
So now I got a lot more pressure.
Was that going to be your question?
Real good, right? That's, all right. So let me try to live up. So yes, but thank you for that. So my question is actually how we're going to get some of this information to parents and how we can help the great work that our teachers are doing, right? So I know when I look at some of the things that my kids are doing, depending on the grade level, I go from I know this stuff, I can't believe I remember this stuff, I know enough to be very dangerous to whatever it is you guys are trying to teach my children, and go ask your mom. So I'm trying to figure out how best to take the data that you're getting, whether it's iReady, whether it's this, and translate it into the things that, or the way that I can help my kids, right? So, if you're going to, I don't want to just read to my son and just say, okay, let's just read the sentences together. But if I can translate that iReady data to say, well, listen, while you're reading to your son, ask him these questions, because this may be where he's a little weaker. I don't want to bore him to death, right? If I'm trying to help my kid with math, it may help the same thing. Like, all right, work these set of problems with them, those sort of things. So I know you're trying to get the teachers in a position to analyze this data, and while it's great that the parents are going to see it, I don't have the level of depth of knowledge and certainly education that you guys have to translate this into something usable. What I do need is to say, listen, here's how you can help your kid, right? Like, we're noticing this, so do more of that in a smaller bite situation.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely at the elementary level. That's definitely where parent-teacher conferences come in, and having teachers who are data literate and are going through this professional development series right now of understanding how to use the data, how to analyze the data that's being provided to them from the tools that we're bringing on board, so then they can bring the sheet of paper, the score report with them to those conferences and say, so listen, let me break this down for you. I'm not just going to read it to you. I'm going to tell you this is what it's telling, this is what I'm taking from this, and this is what I think we need to focus on. So having teachers that understand the score reports through the interpretation of the supervisors, and then being able to share that information with parents, that's the primary point of contact for parents, right? So when a parent has a question, they're going to call their child's teacher. So and in many of these situations, that's what we advocate for parents to do, which is if you have a question, reach out to the teacher will interpret what's going on within the score report for you.
I think it's great. I'm going to suggest taking that even a step farther, that as you're putting together, responses to it, put together, if you can, small programs for parents to work with, right? Like, so I'll sit at the conference, I'll listen to what you have to say, and you'll say, okay, here's a packet of information, right, that you can work through with your kid that's going to attack this standard or this life skill or this whatever it may be, so that we can work right through it together. We can be on the same page as the faculty, because I don't want to tell my kid to do something one way just because I may have gotten it that way, and then I'm completely undoing all the work that you're trying to do with my kid completely inadvertently. So I would take that as a suggestion too, is if, get it right up there, but if we've got something that we can work on together and communicate down the road, hey, I went through question 2 with my kid and he's missing it, right? We at least are speaking the same language, I guess is where I'm going with that.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you all so much for coming out. Our supervisors spend very, very long days here. And they've now spent a nice long night here. So thank you all so much for coming out and reporting to us and sharing all this wonderful work that you're doing. Anything else, Dr. Gonzalez, before I move? Okay, great. So let's move on now to board committee reports. We'll start with the Curriculum Instruction and Programming Committee. Kristen. Oh my gosh, I totally skipped you, James. My apologies. See? They squeezed it at the top of the agenda and I missed it. All right, sorry about that. Let's go with James. Sorry about that.
Good evening. The past few weeks have been very eventful at Westfield High School. Since our last board meeting, WHS held a successful back-to-school night. Over 70 clubs participated in Club Day, and the cast and crew of the fall play The Mad Woman of Shaliot have been hard at work rehearsing for their opening night on November 14th. The month of October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and our school has several events planned to raise awareness and fundraise for the cause. Last Friday, the Student Government Association held the annual Student versus Staff volleyball game and raised over $1,000 to help fight breast cancer through the organization pathways. Yesterday, the high school volleyball program held their annual Pink Out fundraiser and game as well. The next big events coming up in November include the homecoming dance, followed by Spirit Week and Pep Rally. These events are ones that students really look forward to. The annual homecoming dance will be held Friday, November 1st, and is for all juniors and seniors. If students would like to bring an outside guest, they must pick up a form from the guidance office, fill it out, and return it back there. Pep Rally will be held Wednesday, November 27th, with more details to follow as we get closer to the date and receive input from the student body to help improve the event. Thank you.
Thank you, James. I even highlighted it and I still missed it. Darn. Okay, now we're good. Now we'll move to the board committee reports. SIP, Kristen, please.
The Special Services Program presentation reported. Wait a minute, sorry. Okay. Yeah, okay. So SIP met just this past week, and the Special Services Program presentation reported on the continuum of the program and the services that are provided to the students in the district. The presentation also provided insights into recent initiatives, including the new ERI, MD programs, and the intermediate. I feel like I'm, oh yeah, am I? Okay, I feel like I'm missing a page. Hold on one second. Is that right? Am I missing? I feel like I'm missing the beginning. Sorry. Why am I having trouble here?
Do you want a different committee to go and then you regroup?
Yeah, why don't you do that? Why don't you do a different committee?
Yeah, you want to skip? All right.
Yeah.
So we will pause that
Yes,
briefly.
I'm missing a page. Oh, I got it.
You got
Sorry.
it?
Yeah, it didn't make sense. Sorry. I got it. Okay. Okay. The October meeting of the SIP committee took place on October 7th. The meeting began with a presentation of the district's special education program, which was delivered by the Assistant Superintendent of Pupil Services, Dr. Michael Weissman, the Supervisor of Secondary Student Support Services, Alex Linden, and the Supervisor of Elementary Support Services, Katie Neshawat. The three administrators provided a broad overview of the general goals, scope, and growth of the district's special education program. The Westfield Public Schools K-12 Student Support Services program provides a continuum of supports for students with disabilities, ensuring they reach their fullest potential. Programs at the early childhood, elementary, intermediate, and high school levels, which address various physical, social, behavioral, and cognitive disabilities that impact our students. The Special Services Program presentation reported on the continuum of the program and the services that are provided to the students in the district. The presentation also provided insights into the recent initiatives, including the new ERI and MD programs at the intermediate schools, additional supervisory support within the department, and the targeted professional development that is being provided to the child study team, special education teachers, and the regular education teachers. Dr. Weissman, Mrs. Linden, and Ms. Neshwat concluded their presentation highlighting future plans for the department, which involve expanding literacy programs, co-teaching strategies, the introduction of the Autism ABA program, enhanced transition services, and a unified sports program. These efforts reflect the district's commitment to providing all students with the programs and services they need to reach their fullest potential. In addition to the Special Services Program presentation, the SIP committee reviewed revisions to the policies 5350, suicide prevention, and 2200, curriculum content, which are on tonight's agenda for their first reading. Policy 5350 is a mandate policy. Changes to this policy reflect new requirements for suicide prevention training for all staff, updated reporting requirements for staff to warn and protect when a student is believed to be in danger of self-harm, and update procedures for information within the policy to be shared with staff annually. Policy 2200, curriculum content, was an update to remove redundant references to the New Jersey student learning standards that are covered in greater depth in other board policies. The committee had the opportunity to preview Dr. Bolton's NJSLA presentation and targeted questions that was presented tonight. And finally, the district reviewed a draft of the district DEI position statement that was crafted by the district's DEI steering and DEI community advisory committees. The draft DEI position statement outlines the district's definition of DEI as it pertains to our school district, as well as the district's collective commitments to ensure that students and adults find a sense of connection and belonging while learning and working within our schools. Our next meeting is scheduled for November 11th. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions on the report?
Can I just add, oh my goodness, this is just not so great. If I stand back, is that better at all? Less loud? I just wanted to say that that was an excellent summary. There were several things that I heard in the curriculum committee that I was really pleased to hear, and I just want to confirm I heard them correctly. First of all, I now understand that for the most part, all curriculum for SPED is embedded in the curriculum for all the core subjects across the board, and then obviously there's individualized instruction for each student, and therefore the curriculum needs to reflect that. And will, with the exception of curriculum like life skills, which is unique to SPED and is forthcoming. That's just one example. I'm sure that there's others, and I was happy to see the commitment to that, and that's something that's very present. I also wanted to say how pleased I was about bringing in Dr. Mark Faber into the district and creating a contract with him, and I think that that's going to be a significant improvement, and want to compliment the district on the foresight to retain somebody like that. And the third thing that I heard, and I just want to confirm this because I had heard mixed things, is that the MD and the ERI students at the intermediate schools, and I'm assuming that later on at the high schools, can take any of the given music electives, such as band, chorus, or orchestra, if they wish. And I thought that was all really good news, and I want to compliment Dr. Weissman and Dr. Bolton for working so carefully together to make sure that all sides of the coin are reflective for the special education community.
Thank you. Next, we'll have a report from Finance and Facilities. Brendan?
Yep. The Finance and Facilities Committee met on Friday morning. We talked about a whole bunch of issues, and I'll give you the highlights. We started by reviewing the 24-25 budget and the plan for the 25-26 budget. Health benefits were high for the month of August, but our broker has reviewed them and believes it was just staff taking care of visits and non-emergent surgeries before the school year starts. This happens every year, and it's not really anything we worry about, but we do watch it every year. He anticipates our healthcare costs to drop now that school is back in session. We're still monitoring health benefits right now, and the projections still have us in the green for the year. In item G on the agenda tonight, you'll see that we've completed work out of our maintenance reserve account, including repairs and upgrades that were required by the fire department inspections that we have to do every year. And you'll also see a maintenance reserve withdrawal for boiler repairs at Washington School. The boiler was having issues, and that needed to be repaired before winter. Today is the day that we use for attendance for budgeting purposes. So once we have that finalized, Patty will send out budget allocations to the schools for next year. We'll also, once again, have them create separate lists of needs and wants that might not fit into the budgets, and we'll review what we can do this year. Next, Patty and her staff are building their first budget in the Genesis software this year. It's a new purchase for the district, and they had their first training session on Monday. On to everybody's favorite, the Roosevelt facade. There's been an ongoing dispute between our lead contractor and one of their subcontractors, and it's resulted in a whole bunch of legal filings back and forth. And unfortunately, the district is caught in the middle of it, and it's holding up the project. On Friday, the Superior Court dismissed the first round of those filings, allowing the project to proceed for now. Those same individuals are also part of a Department of Labor investigation, and the DO also conducting a full investigation. But I want to emphasize the district is not a party to that in any way. Next, the Roosevelt Fab Lab and Room 123. These were some small renovations we did over the summer to some spaces that were being underutilized at Roosevelt. The Fab Lab opened on September 9th. Some work still needs to be completed, but the room is safe for students to work in. The ceiling and permanent lighting will be delivered by the end of the middle of the month, and will be installed during teachers' convention to minimize disruption to students. Sink and eye wash stations will be installed by the end of the month, along with ventilation. The tile flooring was installed, and I'm told that it looks fabulous. Pegboards for tools and whiteboards have been installed and completed, and new equipment will be installed this week. For room 123, staff are in the SAC office and the OT-PT rooms, and furniture has been ordered to create cubicles and conference areas for the child study team that will be moving over to that space. Next, we talked about our fields and various projects going on there. Softball, work will begin shortly on replacing the varsity softball batting cages. The company met with Sean MacArthur and Jim DeSarno on site, and the decision was made to use extra turf that was left over from Kaler as the flooring for the batting cages, and a rock base will be installed on the perimeter. This will make maintenance easier. The planned rehabilitation work on the varsity baseball field will start once fall ball is completed at the end of the month. We also discussed our new field maintenance plan, and that a bulk order of 2,000 pounds of grass seed was recently delivered to the district. The grounds team will begin overseeding this week, and as the fall sports complete, we'll also aerate and seed further. Right now, cleats are helping us aerate the fields on the prioritized areas. Lastly, as a test project, we purchased turf blankets to try and address the worst areas of the field behind Edison. And based on our experience we have this winter, we hope to expand that to other areas behind Edison, along with other district fields. Next, we moved over to playgrounds. The Jefferson playground equipment will be delivered next week, and the installers hope to have it installed by the end of October. The PTO is still fundraising for a pour-and-play surface, and they have a vendor coming out to measure and get an accurate quote. The district is committed to installing a small paved path from the current walkway to connect to the pour-and-play. PTO is repainting fencing and the basketball court. At Franklin, the playground equipment is tentatively scheduled to be delivered in mid-October, and Patty and Sean will meet with that vendor prior to delivery to make sure that everything's in place. We're also going to be installing an ADA walkway to connect the playground to the school main level, and our architects redrew plans as the original plan we had came in way over budget. Onto the referendum. All projects and the amended long-range facility plan have been submitted to the state and the town for review, and we'll keep you guys posted every month if there are any updates. We also met with Laura Bishop Communications to begin the development of our communication plan regarding the rollout of the referendum and marketing we need to do before the vote. We've also began very preliminary discussions with the town about the possible allocation of future pilot funds towards the referendum. Those talks are ongoing, and there's been no real progress in any one direction there. But also with the town, Patty met with Jim Gilday to go over shared services. The district will begin having our trucks maintained by the town at their town garage for whatever work we can't do by ourselves. We'll pay for parts and labor, but the town is working out a very nice deal for us. And as of January 1st, the town will begin maintaining Roosevelt's field. They're taking it over because they already have to maintain Clark Park, and it makes the most sense for them to just continue with mowing. Jim DeSarno is evaluating backstops and bleachers at Roosevelt and in general, and we'll meet with Patty and Jim to discuss the possibility of sharing the cost or replacing those items at Roosevelt. Look for a shared resolution memorializing that cooperation on the November agenda. And that is it.
Excellent. Any discussion there? All right, let's move on to policies, personnel, and governance. Layla.
Too much.
The PPG committee met on October 10th. In terms of personnel, we began by reviewing school counselor job descriptions. We examined both the elementary school counselor and secondary school counselor job descriptions, and we had a thorough discussion and determined that both documents accurately reflect the responsibilities and expectations for these critical positions. We are recommending tonight that both job descriptions be approved. We also received an update on emergent hiring. Given the pressing needs of these hires, motions related to emergent positions have also been placed on the agenda for this meeting. The committee reviewed two policies scheduled for tonight's agenda. The first policy discussed was policy 0170, which is virtual board meetings, which is recommended for repeal since the law that allowed for these virtual meetings has expired. We also examined policy 2132, school district objectives, which has been updated to align with the district's current strategic plan. Both policies were thoroughly reviewed, and the committee recommends that they be placed on the agenda for approval. In terms of governance, the committee reviewed a proposed resolution against all forms of hate and discrimination, emphasizing the importance of promoting respect, inclusivity, and awareness within our schools. This resolution is especially significant as we observe the Week of Respect and School Violence Awareness Week. The committee strongly supports this resolution and recommends that it be presented at tonight's meeting for board approval. We also discussed the board's self-evaluation process and the setting of board goals. After reviewing the relevant bylaw and processes, the committee recommends starting the self-evaluation process in January of 2025, which will provide ample time to establish meaningful board goals for the upcoming year. Finally, we addressed legislative issues impacting the district. Given the many external challenges schools face, the committee discussed the need to gather feedback from all board committees on issues that may require legislative action. Our plan is to synthesize this information into a position paper that we will present to our local legislators advocating for the necessary changes. That's all I have for our report, and our next meeting is scheduled for November 14th, 2024. Any questions?
I just wanted to say that oh my goodness.
Oh, maybe it's.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to say this because I do intend to vote for the resolution this evening, but I was particularly saddened by the discovery of another swastika this school year. A parent found it at the back-to-school night at Tamaqua, and apparently older graffiti in a district classroom. And honestly, sometimes I worry that these hateful symbols of anti-Semitism are so prolific and common in our district that staff and students don't even notice them sometimes. The Week of Respect commenced on October 7th, coinciding with the anniversary of the Hamas terrorist attack that has caused so much death and destruction globally, and has single-handedly triggered the greatest uptick of anti-Semitism in my lifetime. It's not enough sometimes to do what everyone else is doing, or to use others as your yardstick. It's been said that there's no such thing as a small act and just small people. And in that regard, I'm hoping that I'm voting tonight to approve this resolution while remaining resolute in my hope that we can all become upstanders and work in unity to create respect through words and through actions.
Thank you. All right. Let's move on to recognizing the public. On agenda action items only, during this portion of the meeting, district residents and staff are invited to address the Board of Education on agenda action items only. These are the items marked 10 to 14 on tonight's agenda. As a courtesy, please allow current students and staff of Westfield Public Schools to speak first. The board requests that individuals sign in and state their name, municipality of residence, and group affiliation if applicable for the record, the specific action items they are commenting on, and ask that all remarks be directed to the board president or designee, not to individual members or staff. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding personnel matters are discouraged and cannot be responded to by the board. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of New Jersey. The board bears no responsibility, nor will it be liable for any comments made by members of the public. If a matter concerning a district staff member is of interest or concern to a resident, the matter should be referred to the responsible building principal, superintendent of schools, or the Board of Education, either by telephone, letter, or email. Although the board may not respond to items raised during the public forum, all public comments will be considered. Please note that if any member of the public becomes disruptive during the meeting, the board president may terminate the participant's statement. Continued disruptions may result in removal from the meeting or adjournment of the meeting. Each speaker's statement will be limited to 3 minutes in duration. Seeing no comment, I will close the first public comment and move to some agenda action items. First, I'd like to make a motion for the board to approve the minutes of the September 17th, 2024 regular board meeting. Do I have a second? Julie? We can just probably have a voice vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. Okay, we'll now move to the governance section of the agenda. Sonal, please.
I'd like to move items A through C under the governance section of tonight's agenda, and I'd also like to read the resolution for item C. I'd like the board to approve the following resolution standing firmly against all forms of hatred and discrimination and recognizing the importance of the Week of Respect and School Violence Awareness Week. Whereas the Board of Education of Westfield Public Schools stands firmly against all forms of hatred, bigotry, and discrimination, including but not limited to anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, racism, anti-LGBTQIA+ bias, and any other form of intolerance or prejudice. And whereas acts of hatred, intolerance, and bigotry have no place in our schools and violate the principles of equality, dignity, and respect that are fundamental to a just and inclusive society. And whereas the Board of Education is committed to fostering a safe, inclusive, and respectful learning environment for all students, staff, and families, and will not tolerate any actions that undermine these values. And whereas the state of New Jersey designates the first full week in October as the Week of Respect and the third week of October as School Violence Awareness Week, which serves as important opportunities to promote respect, character education, and safe school environments. And whereas Westfield Public Schools joins in observing the Week of Respect October 7th through 14th and School Violence Awareness Week October 21st to the 25th to emphasize the importance of respect, tolerance, and inclusion as central values of our school community. And whereas the district upholds the New Jersey Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, ensuring the active prevention and prompt addressing of harassment, intimidation, and bullying through policies and resources aimed at fostering a positive school climate. And now therefore be resolved that the Board of Education of Westfield Public Schools reaffirms its unwavering stance against all forms of hatred, bigotry, and discrimination, and will continue to take decisive action to prevent and address such behavior within our schools. And be it further resolved that the board recognizes the critical importance of the Week of Respect and School Violence Awareness Week as essential components in promoting a culture of kindness, inclusion, and respect, where diversity is celebrated as a strength. And be it further resolved that the board calls upon all students, staff, and families to unite in creating a school environment where respect, empathy, and understanding are practiced daily, ensuring that our schools remain places where every individual feels safe, valued, and supported. Can I have a second? Thank you, Kent.
Any discussion? The only thing I want to just add to what Julie said, the board doesn't do these very often, resolutions like this, and I'm very proud that the board policy committee, I know Dr. Gonzalez assisted with a lot of the drafting, came up with this and is able to make a statement here. You know, one of the things that I think causes people concern when acts of hate happen is the level of fear that comes out of it. Am I safe going to my school? Am I supported going to my school? And a resolution like this reaffirms, yes, we have the policies, but it reaffirms that we have the policies in place, and it's a beginning, and it reaffirms that the best way to get past these issues is by coming together on them. Respect is how we get past all this stuff. There's just no other way around it. So I'm happy to have it. I'm happy we did it. It's certainly a first step, and I'm looking forward to taking the next with this group here and this board. And I want to thank you all for supporting it.
Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Gelinas,
Abstain to A and yes to B and C.
Leila Morelli,
Yes.
Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz,
Yes.
Julie Steinberg,
Abstain from A and yes to B and C.
Mary Wickens.
All right, those carry. Next, we'll move to personnel. Leila?
Sure. I would like to move items A through S on tonight's personnel section of the agenda. Kent? Dr. Gonzalez, do you have any comments?
I do, thank you. This is a retirement comment for Linda Steele, who has announced her retirement after 18 years of dedicated service to the school district. Linda Steele has dedicated 18 years to nurturing the educational journey of countless kindergarten students, fostering a deep love of learning and supporting their growth. Known for her innovative teaching methods, Mrs. Steele integrates hands-on learning with activities that enhance critical thinking, creating a dynamic and nurturing classroom environment where everyone feels valued. As a role model within the school community, she has mentored new teachers, collaborated effectively with staff, and helped to cultivate a positive, supportive school culture. A recognized champion of early childhood education, Mrs. Steele has been a vocal advocate for literacy and age-appropriate social-emotional development, enhancing the educational experience for the district's youngest learners. Beloved for her warm and caring nature, Mrs. Steele has left an indelible mark on students, families, and the community, ensuring that her legacy will be cherished for many years to come. We wish Linda all the best for a happy and healthy retirement.
Any discussion? Patty?
Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Gelinas,
Yes.
Leila Morelli,
Yes.
Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz,
Yes.
Julie Steinberg,
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
Next, we'll move the finance and facilities portion of the agenda. Ken?
Thank you. I'd like to move items A to L under the finance section, and I'd like to highlight item I. Kane University Holocaust Resource Center has donated $539.40 for the classes of Westfield High School Social Studies teacher Kim Legan for supplies and educational material for Holocaust commemorations. Thank you to Kane University. That brings our year-to-date total donations to $48,993. Oh, well done. Any questions, comments?
I think we need a second first, right? Okay. Can I have a second, please?
Anyone? Thank you, Brendan.
Brendan? Okay, now we're good.
Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Gelinas,
Yes.
Leila Morelli, Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz,
Yes.
Julie Steinberg,
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
All right, next we'll move to the policy section of the agenda. Leila, you're up again.
I'd like to move items A through C under the policy section of tonight's agenda. Is there a second? Oh, Kristen, there you go.
Change it up.
Any discussion? All right, move to vote.
Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Ken Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Jelinas,
Yes.
Layla Morelli, Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz,
Yes.
Julie Steinberg,
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
Next, curriculum instructions and programs. Kristen?
I'd like to move items A through C under the SIP agenda tonight. A asks the board to approve a field trip. B is for an art student-teacher split between Franklin and the high school. And C is the approval of the 24-25 nursing plan. Can I get a second? Layla? Any discussion? Okay, we
Patty?
can vote.
Rob Bonaccio,
Yes.
Ken Diamond,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Charles Jelinas,
Yes.
Layla Morelli, Sonal Patel,
Yes.
Kristen Sonic-Schmelz,
Yes.
Julie Steinberg,
Yes.
Mary Wickens.
All right, I'd like to acknowledge the notes for the record for the board. There was no unfinished or new business presented to the board for the agenda, so we will move on now to liaison reports, if anyone has any. CJ, we'll start there.
This is for the UCSBA. On October 9, I had the privilege to attend the Union County School Boards Association county meeting, along with members of this board and other school boards around Union County. We had a robust agenda to work through, including presentations led by the NJ School Boards Association and the Union County Executive Superintendent. Topics included a discussion of the significant levels of chronic absenteeism in many NJ schools and the corrective action plans to be required in response to this issue, as well as a fairly involved breakdown of the funding formulas used by the state to disperse equalization aid to address various calculated shortfalls in school budgets around the state. Speakers at the event noted there, as we have indeed tonight as well, there is indeed a place for school board member advocacy with the county and the state, and attending to this latter issue may indeed prove one of those areas where we need to conduct further review and consideration of the formula and consideration of whether to advocate for either further clarifications or change. We ended the evening with our keynote address, Building Board Relationships and Mutual Trust, presented by NJSBA Field Service Representative Jean Cleary. The presentation imparted a high-level overview of developing effective intra-school board working relationships through several defined strategies. As always, it was an excellent and informative evening.
Thank you. Julie?
I was unable to go to the Union County meeting. I apologize. It was Rosh Hashanah evening. But I did attend the Wilson PTO, which was fantastic. A couple of things that I just wanted to mention. There were a lot of questions about the referendum and how it affected them. Myself, the Principal Marsh, everyone did their best to answer them, but tremendous amounts of questions about how it's going to affect the school. Very thoughtful. The second thing I wanted to mention is there was an excellent presentation given by their librarian about what they're doing for online safety, acceptable use of devices, et cetera. And I was very impressed with how creative and thoughtful she tries to meet the kids at their level. So instead of just lecturing about online safety, which is so much fun, she's actually getting into Roblox with them. She's getting into Minecraft with them. She's getting into, introductions to AI with them in a way that is meaningful and constructive, not just this is what it is and droning on. And even with coding, she and I even discussed the first Robotics Lego League afterwards, and I just thought it was an excellent example of how one school is doing a really good job to creatively address those goals and needs for the district, and I just wanted to mention that. The second thing that happened at Wilson is on October 8th, there was the HIB session, which was fantastic. I thought that was one of the best. It was attended by, I'd say, 10, 15 parents. I was there, Rob was there, Dr. Gonzalez was there. I got good feedback during it and afterwards, and I would really recommend that we do more sessions like that and maybe even try to figure out a way to share with people who can't be in physical attendance, because I thought that everybody was very respectful, understanding that these are the rules. It's a very imperfect, difficult space, and we're all trying to do the right thing for the kids, for the schools, for the parents, for the teachers. So kudos to the guidance department for such a a well-done presentation.
Thank you. Layla, did you have a report?
I'm reporting for Mary. She likes to give me lots of things to do. I hope she's watching. So Jefferson PTO had their first in-person meeting since COVID on September 26th. They went over the referendum and plans, especially specific to Jefferson, and answered questions. The PTO has ordered their new playground equipment generously donated. It's not English, I didn't write it. $100,000 by the PTC. So the PTC generously donated, and so now Jefferson is ordering their new playground equipment, which is very excited. They also received $20,000 from the Westfield Ed Fund to make the playground more inclusive, and are currently in the process of fundraising $50,000 to update the flooring of the playground. Their back-to-school picnic, which is always a really fun time, is this Friday from 5 to 7. You don't have to be part of the Jefferson community to enjoy it. Okay, on October 7th, the Westfield Recreation Committee met, and events that are scheduled are Thursday, October 17th, so this Thursday. Lifelong Westfield is having its annual Senior Services Fair, where more than 30 local organizations will be on hand to share information about services for seniors, as well as volunteer opportunities and social activities. Doors open at 9:30, and coffee and bagels will be served, and this takes place in St. Helens Church Gymnasium on Rahway Avenue. Saturday, October 26th, at 3:30, from 3:30 to 5:30, walk the trail through Brightwood Park and enjoy the jack-o'-lanterns scattered through the woods. Each family can partake in the Halloween scavenger hunt, decorate bags at the picnic tables, and then trunk or treat for candy. Please come in costume. Pre-registration is required. I believe that should be on the recreation website. October 27th at 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. at Mindawaskan Park, the Westfield Police Department and trick-or-treat event and parade is being held. That's on wpdnj.org. And senior transportation is now available Mondays through Thursdays from 9 to 3. Appointments are required. It's very exciting. And inclusive programs for children and teens with special needs, including yoga, sports, and arts and crafts, are available on the Rec Department website for a brochure of programs and to register. And those are Mary's reports.
Excellent. Any other liaison reports? I will briefly state I attended the meeting of the high school PTSO. It's a very similar theme, discussion largely about referendum, about various events going on at the schools. James generally reports there as well, so I don't have to repeat what he said over there. He does a great job summarizing. But certainly reach out to the high school PTSO if you have questions about any kind of programming going on. I do want to mention that Fallon Ballastone, our counseling director, also typically attends those meetings, and I want to echo Julie's comments about the programming that the counseling department does. They have a session coming up also on the 17th, so we can kind of compete with the Rec Commission, I guess, a little bit, on college preparedness. It's geared toward juniors, but sophomores and freshman parents are also invited. If you want to get a preview of the process, again, that'll be on the 17th, I think 7 o'clock. Check the counseling website for more information on that. And I agree, they put together fantastic programming and definitely worth the time. With that, it's time to recognize public for the second public comment. During this portion of the meeting, members of the public are invited to address the Board of Education on any topic. Given the crowd that we have here, I am going to simply state that the same rules for the first public comment apply to the second public comment, and open the floor and subsequently close the floor. And thank everyone for being here. May I have a motion to adjourn, please? So moved. Do I have a second? Well, if you have new business. Yes. Okay. You got it. All right, we're good, we're good. It's, all right, so we did, motion to adjourn approved, yes?
Yes.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Excellent, we are adjourned.